Good morning and welcome to this Blender 2.8 tutorial. Today we'll be talking about how to get started with modeling in Blender. Alright, so here we have our cube. Let's start modeling with it. So if you press tab, you can switch into edit mode. Now you can see all the vertices of your object. If I press tab again, it brings me back to object mode. You can also do it right here. Object mode, edit mode, object mode. So I'm going to just press tab. Now we're in edit mode. Now, not only can we select objects, but now we can select faces and vertices. So now, for example, I can select a vertice and move it. Whereas if you're in object mode, you can only select entire objects. Awesome. So I can move things like that. I can also, if I go over here, I can switch to edge select mode. So now it'll let me select edges. You can also select an edge if you're on vertice mode, just by pressing one and then shift clicking another one. And now I've selected those two edges, or I can just do it like that in edge select mode. Awesome. Also, we have face select mode. Here we can select face, select face or multiple if you hold down shift while left clicking. Yeah. Alright, so also if you want to be able to select vertices, edges, or faces all at the same time, you can just shift left click these two, and now all three of these are selected, so now I can select faces, edges, and vertices without having to go up there, and that might be easier for you if you want to do it that way. And so all of the stuff that we can do in our normal mode, our normal object mode, like move, scale, rotate, everything, it's the same here, but now we can do it, for example, like with faces. So do that, or we can, rotate this face. You get all sorts of interesting, wonky stuff to happen. So this is called modeling. And yeah, it's essentially messing with the vertices, the edges, and the faces of an object. So down here you can see we have a ton of options that we did not have when we were in object mode. It just stops right there. Edit mode, however, we have a ton of options down here. So I'm just going to go and explain a few of them really fast. So here we have extrude region. This is the one that you're probably going to end up using more than any of the other ones. So yeah, if we just click on that. Now, if we have a face selected, and we grab this little plus right here, what it's doing is it's creating a copy of the face that we had selected, this one, and it's just making a copy of it and then making it connected to the last one. So we can do all sorts of cool stuff with this. You can also select multiple faces and then do it. And I'm going to press S to scale them down, and then do it again, and then do it again, and then press S to scale it down. You can even make it go in. So you can just do all sorts of really cool stuff with this. That's called extrude. The keyboard shortcut for extrude is E. So if I select a face, and I'll put my cursor back on normal. Now if I press E, now I just move my mouse, and then click when it's where I want it. And then there we go. Cool. Alright, well, let's go back and look at the next one. Inset faces. So if you click on a face, and you grab this and move it, you're going to notice that it's making an inset of the face, like it says, which is essentially just taking the exact same face and making a face that's the same proportions, just a tiny bit smaller in it. So if I undo that, you can do pretty much that exact same thing if you extrude it, and then like scale it, and then move it back. But it just might be, and it's a little bit different, but it's pretty similar. And so you can use inset if you want, or you can just use extrude. For example, if you press E, And then instead of clicking to place it with your left mouse button, if you press your right mouse button, it looks like it canceled it. It didn't really. It's just hidden because it put that face that you extruded on top of the last one. So if I press G, you can see that it's still there, you just can't see it because it's, it's connected in the same spot. So now I can press S to scale it, and it's pretty much the same. You will notice that inset makes the border exactly the same. If I go back here to inset, it'll make the border completely even like this, whereas if you extrude it, it won't be quite so even. So there's that. Let's look at bevel. Bevel is where you have an edge or a face selected, and I can grab this, and it's going to make, it's not a super good example. Let me try it over here. Okay, so what it's going to do is it's going to bevel this edge, which means that it's going to kind of make a flat edge where there used to be this hard edge. It's going to turn that into kind of a more flat edge. Also, let's see, when you bevel things, and with anything, down here, this thing will pop up. If you click on that, there's a bunch of settings you can change. So the one you're probably going to use the most out of all these is the segments. So I'm just going to increase that, and now you can have a really nice, I don't know if you're like making furniture or something, you want to have a nice beveled edge, that's really handy. Also, if I click off of it and I go back, that setting will disappear. So you can only change the setting right after you do it. Anyway, so there's that. We also have a loop cut here, and in a little bit I'll show you how you can use all of these to make something really awesome. So what this does is it creates kind of like this intersection that goes all the way around our object. So if I just click, yeah, it's made a bunch more vertices that wrap all the way around my object. Click here, or here, and yeah. And the reason why you'd want to do that is so that you have more vertices to work with. Switch back to face selection mode. Now, for example, I can push that out, push that in, push that out. Whereas before, I wouldn't have had a face to pull out right there. So that's why this loop cut is really handy. There's also knife and a bunch of other stuff. Those are the main ones I want to talk about today. Loop cut, bevel, inset faces, extrude region. And extrude is very similar to both of these. So if you want to just remember extrude, you just, press E and then click when you have it where you want it. And you can use scale and then press G to move it and stuff. And you can do a ton just using that. Loop cuts, also if you want the shortcut, it's Control R. It'll always show you what the shortcut is, just right down to the right in the description, and it says it's Control R. And bevel is Control B, inset is I. So I'm going to be using those just because it's faster, but if you mainly just want to remember Control R for loop cut and E for extrude region, that's awesome. Okay, well, we have a pretty funky looking thing here. I'm going to switch back into object mode now by pressing Tab. You'll see it changes up here. Now, we won't see our vertices. We'll just see our whole object. And now you can do anything that you do with a normal object, like duplicate it, Shift D, then click, Shift D, and then click. You could have a whole army of whatever interesting shapes you're working with. Yeah. So now let's get to the application of how you can make something really awesome using just those simple things that I've showed you. If you press Shift A and add in a cylinder, we're going to turn this cylinder into into a lightsaber handle. And you can put that lightsaber on it as well if you want. So let's first scale it. So press S, then we want to only scale it along the Z axis. So I'm going to press Z. And let's scale it till it looks kind of the right dimensions for a lightsaber handle. Now let's press Tab to go into edit mode. This is where we're going to start editing our vertices here. Let's add in some loop cuts. Oh, another thing is that if you press Control R, it's a little bit different than using this, even though Control R is the shortcut for it. But I'm going to press Control R and click, and now it's going to let me slide it immediately, whereas it won't let you slide it by default with the the tool over here, this one. So I'm going to be using just the Control R instead. Click, and I'll move it up. Control R, click, move it down, click, and I have it where I want it. If you want to move it after, I'm like, oh wait, I wanted to select that again, rather than going around the whole thing, selecting all of them, if you just press Alt and then click on one of them, it knows that there's a ring there and it will select all of them. So that is super handy when you're modeling. So instead of having to do that, you can just press Alt, click on one of them, and it gets the whole thing. Same thing for like this direction if you want to do it vertically, so it'll just kind of guess, and most of the time it gets it right, what you wanted to select. So if I want to move this now, you can press G and then Z, and that will move it. You can also just press G and then G again, so GG, and now it turns it into sliding mode. So however you want to do it. Okay, cool. Now, switching to face select mode, I'm going to press Alt and click right here. Select all of those. Alt Shift click down here. I'm holding Alt Shift and clicking. Alright, so now what we're going to want to do, I kind of want to make this, these parts at the top and the bottom kind of go out. So it's like the handle's in the middle, and those are kind of the, outer rings of the handle. I'm going to go over here. Now, if you just do a normal extrude, you're going to get really wonky stuff happening like that. You're going to be like, well, that's not really what I wanted. I wanted them all to kind of like expand outward. And to do that, if you click right here and hold, it gives you other options here. So we want to do extrude along normals. Now if I do it, ta-da, that is 100% what we wanted. Awesome. And so that's a really handy thing to remember, is that if you hold down, you can select the different things in there to choose which one you want to be using. Okay, so as you can see, it's starting to look a little bit like a lightsaber handle. Let's go to edge select mode. I'm going to hold down Alt, click this down here to select all those. I'm going to go up here and press Alt and Shift and then click. So now I have that one selected. I have this one selected. Then I'm going to press S and then Z to only scale it along the Z axis. And oh yeah, that's looking awesome. Okay. I'll go back to face mode. I mean, you can do this however you want, but because there's a lot of different lightsaber handle designs out there. I'm gonna move it along the Z axis. Something like that looks cool. Maybe I'll press S to scale it up a little bit. And let's put some cool looking buttons in here. So I'm going to press Control R again. You can also use your scroll wheel to add in more cuts. So I'm just going to add in 2. And then I'm going to right click to put them back in the middle. And then press S and then Z to scale them. And then I'm going to press G and then Z to move them up. Now I'll go in here and select a few of them. If you want to hide that thing, you can just click right there. And I'll hold Shift to select a few of them. And I'll press E and then press E again, and then right click and scale that new one I just made. You could also use inset right there, that would be a good way to do it. And then press E, and then just to show you, so I could also just press E again and then scale it to kind of make it taper off at the end. The other thing I could do is I could go over here to bevel, and now I just want to select these ones. So I'm just holding down Shift and Alt while clicking to select the whole row of them. Now, since I'm on bevel, I'll do it, and it will kind of achieve a similar sort of effect. If you want it more exaggerated, I can just press S and then Y to scale it on that axis. And yeah, you have a little button there that I guess turns it on or something, which is cool. Also, if you notice the face is back there, looking a little weird. Let's fix that. I'll just click on one face. Now, another way of selecting things is if you click on one thing, and let's say I want all of them selected until here. So you could do Shift, or Alt and click, and that would get all of them. If I just want those ones right there, you can just hold down Control and then click, and it will find the shortest path of faces and select them. So that can often be really helpful. So I'll just click on this one, hold down Control, and it's going to select those ones. And I'm holding down Control this whole time while selecting. Now I have all those selected. And now let's make these flat. So I'll press S, and then we want, the Y-axis. So S and then Y. And then I will type in 0, which means it's going to scale it until it's completely flat. And now, perfect. It's completely flat. I'll actually press G and then Y to move it up a little bit. Awesome! So, yeah, we've gotten started with our lightsaber right here. Really quickly here, I'll just go through and add a few more details. I'll press Control B to bevel, like that. Then I'll press E, or actually it would be better if I used the extrude along normals right here. There we go. And let's see what else. Select those, move it down. Select these, move it up. Maybe add another loop cut. Oh yeah, I like that. And then I'll bevel it and change this right here, the number of segments up to make it nice and smooth. It's looking kind of cool. Maybe I will add in some more details down here at the bottom. Could just select a few of these and extrude along normals. That, something like that. Anyways, you get the idea. You can do a lot of really cool stuff with modeling, and it's really not very hard at all. Go back here in edit mode, and let's just add in the end of our lightsaber. Might as well make the whole thing, right? So I'm just extruding this face, and then I'm going to extrude it, and then scale it in a little bit, extrude it, scale it in a little more, extrude it, and then scale it in a lot more. And now, yeah, we have a lightsaber. Maybe we're like, well, actually that needs to be a little longer. One thing you'll notice is that if you go to the select tool and you select like this, just click and drag, it's going to select them, or I want to be on vertice select. It's going to select them, but it didn't select the other side. If you want to be able to select everything, if you change this, well, it's probably easiest if you press Z, and then wireframe. And now if I select, since I can see through it, it'll select everything. Press Z and then solid. Now it'll select everything on both sides. So that's important, because if you don't do that, you're going to end up like, oh, I'll just move it now. And then it ends up that you did that to it, and you don't want to do that. So you need to make sure to select both sides. So yeah, wireframe, select solid. Awesome. Now I'll be like, well, yeah, let's make it a little longer. And yeah, that's looking cool. So yeah, now we have our lightsaber. That is pretty much the beginning of modeling. Really fast, I'll just show you how materials work when you're modeling. So if I add a new material, right here it's thinking, we can, right here, this will be a material assigned to all of it. And if you saw my other video on materials, I showed you how to do it per object. So if it's a separate object, how to change the material. If you want to change the material within an object, this is how it works. So I'll press tab to go into edit mode. Like let's say we want this top part to be glowing, right? And we want the bottom part to be made out of metal. So we'll just do it really simply. So went to the side view by pressing 1 on the number pad. You can also do that by clicking these over there. Alright, so I'll select all the faces that I want to be made out of. Well, first I should put in, first let's put in the materials that we're going to use. So let's make this first material the metal. So I'll drag this right here to 1. So now it's metallic. I'll change the color. Alright, so if we go into rendered view, it's going to look like this. So we've got the entire thing made out of metal. Now we just want to select these top faces, the part of the lightsaber that should be glowing, and make them glowing. So let's go make that material over here. So I'm on the second material, not the metal one. And I'm going to go down here until I get to emission. And I'm going to drag this all the way up to make it brighter. And let's make it like a sort of green. Alright, and now we need to assign it. So I'm going to go press tab to go into edit mode. Now I'll go into wireframe so I can select the faces on the other side and on my side. Go back to solid view, and now they're all selected. Now I'll just click on the material that I want to have connected to these faces and press assign. Now if we go back, ta-da! It's looking good. Now you might notice that the you can see these kind of bumps going around here, and so let's work on fixing that. Switch back over to solid shading mode, and I'm going to right click on it and press shade smooth. Now of course this part looks a lot better, but now there's some wonky things happening for the rest of this. So to fix those things, let's click on that. Go over here to the modifier properties, this little wrench. Add modifier. Let's add a bevel modifier. So like we were talking about before with beveling, this is kind of an auto way of beveling. And we need to change it to angle. So that's how it's deciding which edges to bevel, is based on the angle. And let's increase the segments a little more. You can see that this is starting to look really nice. You can also play around with how big the offset is here, things like that. But yeah, that's looking pretty good for now. So it's only making the corners sharp that are like 90 degrees, or at least a little sharper than just flat around like this part. Anyways, so that is pretty much it. Let's go back to rendered view. Now it's looking super awesome. Alright, so another thing you may want to consider here, for just having it look a little bit more realistic, is if we change, if we have our glowing material selected, we go to surface and we actually change it to emission. This is going to let us make it a lot brighter than you can do if you're on the other shader. So now, although it looks white, it's really just green that's super duper bright. So if we go over here and we turn on bloom, you will start to see here, if I mess around with some of these settings. Usually you have to just mess around with the threshold and the intensity value until you get kind of what you're going for. And now this is looking, yeah, even better because we've got the glow around it and then kind of the bright white hot center. Anyways, yeah, so that's pretty much this tutorial. Thank you for watching, and I hope that you come back and see some more next time. Thank you.